here we are. Took longer than I kind of wanted it to, but a few things that I actually want to do today. I want to make. You see these canals here? If they're wide, it's really easy for people like Tomal Kingdom. If really wide canals benefit larger kingdoms like this because they get to throw more money and more resources and actually use those resources, whereas small canals like these actually benefit tiny nations because goodness gracious, because tiny nations only can afford a small corridor, a few amount of soldiers and whatnot. So yeah, it's just interesting, and I do want to edit it. Speaking of which, I do also want to make fishery zones, and I want to actually edit this one up here because this is good. It's not great, it's not amazing, but it's good. Probably actually want to do this even. Because this in here is fairly deep water. Now, what this simulates, as you can tell, there's only a few little corridors that go out into these regions. And that means that even if you're a huge nation, it's fairly hard for you to actually, like, invade the Jinpei dynasty all the way from Krael. Right now, Krael can kind of go along the coast, but before, if this was all filled in, they could just go right into the ocean and then come down into here. But right now there's tiny little corridors, so they can't really do that as well. Um, I like that. That's the whole goal of these little corridors, is to make it to where nobody can just own everything. And something else I gotta do is get rid of some of this right here. Because what this represents, the coastline, it represents fishing zones. I'm gonna just, yep, disconnect that right there. And the fact of the matter is that fishing was fairly common in this giant body of water. Who would have thought? Something I did notice is that they would meet up right in the middle, and I don't like that. So I'm going to get rid of this, and then that limits how much they can actually interact with each other. It doesn't stop them, it just limits them from doing so. That right there. Right there. I do actually want to make it to where these corridors, because they did their job, they just didn't do their job as much as I wanted them to. So, gonna shave them down, especially like right here. Shave them down this way, and extend them basically the opposite way. And then we'll see how that runs. I mean, it's actually kind of, I don't know, I don't really want the Empire having too much access. Do you know what I can do? We'll do that. Because the Empire did have a lot of fishing over here. Gotta be very careful that these just don't touch. Because it's not like they didn't fish on here, it's just that giant invasions with tons of soldiers didn't happen over this body of water. First off, waves were not, like, fishing in here was dangerous enough. Waves were not predictable enough to just reliably travel across the ocean in fleets of more than 10. You did have fishing fleets. Those did happen. They just weren't, because this is a lake, but the lake is rather huge to the point that it's basically an ocean. It's basically like a sea. I don't know 110% how this exactly is going to modify it or how it's going to make it work, but we'll see. We'll see. These guys didn't fish nearly as much, so I'm not going to bother giving them anything. We're going to actually just, yeah, right there, because that part was not nearly as important as this. And we'll move on right along down through here. There we go. Again, the Empire did have a lot of fishing access around here, because there was a lot of fishing villages along this. But it was also a lot of hills, so they didn't have farms and fishing villages. They mostly had fishing over here, and they bought farms from over here, so the villages in the hills wasn't exactly an easy place to be. I did cut down a lot of the territory owned by the Jinpei, and also I noticed people were crossing this river way too much. Way too much. This river is not that crossable. This is like the Nile, basically. The Nile or the Yellow River, like, some parts, yes, they're completely crossable. Other parts, not crossable at all. So I wanted it to be kind of hectic to where, you know, these little stringents, yeah, you can cross most of them, but not everywhere. It's not super easy. The Amazon mixed with the Nile mixed with literally everything else. Let's see what else. We gotta do something with Creole. Or not Creole. This little land right here. Kadushvi is not that defensible because of this little territory right here. And I do actually want to give them just, yeah, that should be fine. Make that over there. Now what we want to do is probably make the same over here. a fishing zone over here on this coast. I also realized that, yeah, we're going to then cut away at the coast. Not by too much. It's actually fine to do that right there. Yep. One fishing lane. Two fishing bridges. Something to actually that I have made note of is that for bigger nations, you want to make sure that the bridge right here, I call this little bridge into the fishing lane, it's actually longer than, like, for Jokufan and Barstan, their bridge is going to be tiny. They're already there, basically. Because this is all archipelagos. Like, this is very coastal water. Most of this is fairly sellable. This is less so. Think of like Indonesia. Most of that is actually really easy to sail around there. Not all of it, but most of it is. Oop. Okay, hold on. There we go. I actually like that a lot. As a matter of fact, we're going to then make that a bridge right there. What else? I think that should be good in and of itself. It's gonna look a little weird, a little funny. But if it behaves like it did up here, it should be more than good enough. Oop. There we go. I like that. We'll go ahead and we'll get rid of these. There we go. Hmm. Jinpei actually doesn't have enough access to these islands compared to like Creole, but I did limit Creole's access while giving them technically more, but this should be fine. It should work well. That's another thing I need to do. I need to... Yeah. I'm gonna cut this down right here. Because mind you, the more coastal access they have, the better it is for these big nations like Croel. Technically, Caduce fights are a big nation, but I highly doubt... We'll look into how much money they get, but they get basically almost nothing, if I remember correctly. They get very little. I'm pretty sure they get as much as, like, I don't want to say Playville, but I don't think there's another nation really comparable. That's comparable. They get pretty much as much as Kanan Bornu at the start of the game, anyways. Kanan Bornu grows very large, so not necessarily the best example, but they get almost the same as much as Kanan Bornu. Just gotta check one of my messages here. Yeah, that's the phone call. Alright. Alright. Let me see here. Red Castle. I do want to make Malberg. Yeah. I have to fix these flippin' flags too. Which ones did I do that with? Technically that one. There's not a lot that I did that with though. There's very few I did that with. You know what? Yeah, we're gonna just fix this flag. Fix all three of these flags. Color picker. Malberg. Malberg. Let me see here. That's the only one that actually wasn't bad. Alright. Low Heaven? Low Heaven, Low Heaven, Low Heaven. Did I name it Low Haven? Treyland. I did name it Treyland. I almost made a very, remove from flag map, continue, yep, get rid of Treyland, get into Treyland. There we go. Save that. Oleite. What did I name this one? Jinpei. Alright. 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 I don't know why. Alright. I guess there's only really 3 flags that we gotta edit. It's a major fishing zone. Now I'm nervous to put in more fishing zones. I guess what we could do, cut back on that angle right there, and give 2 on this side, 1 up here, 1 in there, and then give Kadushvi 1. That should be good, that should work. Because now I'm really nervous to give more. It's interesting. I didn't expect to be nervous. Alright. Well, I can just make this into a fishing zone right here. Also, we can... I think we'll just add in that right there. Because Jinpei is supposed to be really powerful. The fact that they're not really powerful is a bit disappointing. Something else that we gotta do is, this forest was never properly tamed. I don't know what's going on here, but let's do that, and then... Now what? Yeah, okay. This forest was never properly, like, tamed. It's more of a jungle. Do this to show you. Yeah. So, one of the first things that there probably should be doing, because it costs gold, which is basically energy in this game, energy and resources, to, claim land. Since it costs gold and resources to claim land, these guys should be spending resources, time, and energy to claim the territory. Same with the Wesnay Emperor. Although I do want to make the Wesnay Emperor a bit more powerful. Because right now, it's not nearly as powerful as it needs to be. The Emperor's fairly weak. Which is, historically speaking, lore accurate to a point. The Emperor was not nearly as weak as he kind of just usually is in the simulation. And that's not to the fault of the simulation as much, I should say. I won't say that the simulation is perfect. Of course it's not perfect, but I could also make my own simulation if I wasn't so lazy, if I really wanted to. But I haven't, so the simulation is good. It's just more or less not good for portraying what I wanted to do. It's obvious, because it's not mine. It's just a random simulation in the in basic terms, is what I should say. Not that it's a terrible simulation. I don't know why I keep digging myself this hole. It sounds like I'm talking smack. I'm really not trying to. Alright, we'll make sure that we will actually limit this one because it's not supposed to be that powerful. At all. In the slightest. There you go. And what we will do is just grab that line right there. That way nobody has any chance to accidentally claim land that they really shouldn't be claiming. Let me see here. Oh, not that many. Alright, hold on. Get rid of that one right there. Delete. There you go. It's supposed to be a very limited number. Let me see. You know, if he adds tech in this game, that would be amazing. Or, well, actually, I don't know if it's here or not, but if they add tech, whoever made this game, that would be pretty darn amazing. That right there. You know, and if we do this right here, to show that those are like nomadic tribes, very lazy indeed. It's fine. We can get rid of that right there because no matter what, these guys aren't getting more than that. And we can actually kind of solve this in general by just making it very clear that this territory right here is not very tamed in and of itself either. Which means they have bigger, better, badder things to worry about. We're just going to now, in the future, in the very near future, well, no, not near, it's like 900 years later, the other start date is. But, in the future, okay, there we go. We do. Hold on. I do want this, I just don't want this. There we go. It's better. I just want them to spend money on other things than fighting each other at first. Red Castle is interesting. Purple Height, we do have to get rid of more land. Go to free. There we go. realizing how little of Purple-Eyed actually should be colonized. Or settled, I should say, not really colonized. We'll make a forest tribe. We'll make a few desert nomads. Actually, there we go. Very little. This should be actually colonized. Hold on. Hmm. Yeah, they are forest people themselves, but I don't think they would actually have that much control over all of this either. Eh, yeah, sounds about right. Just give me two. Alright. Forest peoples. Forest peoples here. I would make each of these independent or their own tribes, but it just doesn't sound quite right. Because you're not supposed to have 100 different entities. This is mainly the entities that they fall under. Let me see. Plains. On the top is going to be very important. That's one of the main reasons why later on, because these guys, they don't have a lot of hills, they don't have a lot of mountains. It's just mainly flat lands. And these flatlands, with a forest, so they have building materials in the forest, in the woods, and it's mainly flatlands. So they had enough, like, trade posts, they had enough for buildings, they could do basically whatever they wanted. They didn't have to do, put too many materials into anything. Whereas on this island, they could farm a lot. They had a lot of farmlands as well. But they had a lot of forests to tame. Mostly, they used it for building materials. Down here, a lot of forests, but they had important ports in very well placed spots for trading. And the trade ports then became important for, what's it called? Traveling, because these guys eventually did colonizing along down through here. But that's hundreds of years into the future. So let's see. Hmm. Red Castle. There we go. Alright. Could you not be a pain in my butt, please? Thank you. Mush, mush. There we go. down here. 1, 2. There you go. This woods is not big enough for people to be. There are people that live in here, but there's not like enough for a tribe per se. Okie dokie do, much. West Crag, give it nothing. This will also make it a lot less likely for all of these to try to rise up against the Emperor, and a lot easier for the Emperor to actually annex all of them. So, yeah, that'll be good. After I edit this, sure. I'll run the scenario for you guys, because I have a phone call I have to take in about 15 minutes. So after I finish this one, I'm going to save the map, and then save the scenario, and then go ahead and mute myself, more or less, and then you guys can just watch. We'll all watch it together, play on out. The sound isn't working for me right now. Usually I can hear it through my TV, but I just can't hear it right now. It's a little frustrating. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna just make sure that the sound settings itself is... That's what's going on. That is exactly what's going on. I still can't hear anything. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Let me turn that all the way up. Well, I can hear something. Wait, is that? Yep, okay. I didn't actually mean to really do that, but... There you go. So I can actually hear the, what's going on. And... Nah, I'm gonna go ahead and we're going to save the scenario. Replace existing scenario. Replace existing scenario. And I'll click play for all of us. What we're looking for is the Jinpei dynasty being more influential on the islands, but less influential to Korea or anything around them, which that wasn't a problem before, to be fairly honest, but we're looking for the, well, the Empire flags are already fixed. We're looking for Krael not to completely crush the Kadushite people. What else were we looking for? Yeah, Krael to not be as influential on the islands. Not that they were too influential, but they were very influential, especially late game. I didn't edit anything over here. These operated very well. Not very well, but well enough. Kanan Bornu was supposed to be really big, and ultimately the Esme Emperor to, like, not fall, or like, immediately get ganked on, because usually they have to fight these guys. Hopefully these guys will now be significantly weaker. Let's go ahead and play. I'm going to first just look at the income mode. So who's first in income? Of course, the Empire's the biggest. Then you have Krael, Tomal Kingdom, whatnot. Okay, go ahead, click on income. We have the Empire. They are top, best, largest, and they also have like four vassals that are fairly sizable. So yeah, reasonable enough. Then you have the Jinpei dynasty. Okay, I think yeah, Jinpei has most of it coming from the cities fairly well because they are very population dense. These guys have Tomal Kingdom, then you have Creel, then you have the Kadushites, and then the Esne Emperor. Um, which is good because then you don't even have one of the Emperor's underlings until you get to Unotop, which is nice to know. What else should we be looking at? Wars, there's nothing. Obviously, all of these are vassals underneath there. Those are all vassals underneath that empire. The Tamal Kingdom has recently subjugated that empire. Well, not that empire, it's just a tiny little kingdom right there. Which, this little area right here, another fishing zone that I think this is the first one I ever did. And I did this one before I did it up here, and it worked fairly well. Not amazing, but good enough. There's not enough space for it to do too much better down there. But and then I did it up here, and it worked. I won't say perfectly, but it worked well. It worked well. Let's go ahead and see about the alliances. Of course, we have the Creolites. These are all Creole people. Usually Caduceite people get kicked out of it kind of immediately, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then you have the political map mode. So yeah, gonna go ahead and anything here that we should see? Alliances, the biggest alliance, Creolite people. Of course, you have these three here. The Treaty of Purple Height being the largest of the three treaties. Let's go ahead and head back into this mode right here. Of course, red is bigger than the other ones, but they're not usually the one that wins, which is lore accurate, by the way. Age doesn't matter, max area doesn't matter. We'll just go ahead and click play. And I think what we'll do here is get rid of this. Alright, now I'm going to turn my own voice down and we'll see where that goes. are again. I am back. Sorry if that scared you. It was rather sudden. Go ahead and turn that on down. You can turn that down too. I don't even know what that does. But yeah. So we have the return of the Empire. After being wiped out several times, having several imperial rebellions, they have succeeded in the south, which is a little odd. Because I just gave Krail their new flag to signify the fact that they made a giant empire. But it looks like Krail was not quite equipped enough to hold on to that empire. Let's see what's this over here. Only have 24 nations left, but honestly it's probably only around 20 that are actually important. Are we gonna see a complete collapse of Yellowkeep yet or not? No. Yellowkeep did survive. Who's this? Still Kanan Bornu. Alright. Mythical Black. Balak would not be a bad name for him. Whoop. What's going on here? Angzi. Angzi, now the Empire of the Islands, which is kind of odd because Angzi's from Sutki, all the way down here, but it's okay. Krail, no, the Kadush fights peoples. What year is it? 1200s? That's enough for where is it? There you go. In case you're wondering why I changed the flag, Kadushvi originally had like 5 tribes, 5 families. These tribes united. Before it was more of a confederation. They kind of helped each other's interests, but they weren't like all united, if you will. They just worked together and they were all one culture. So it's not like they were really fighting each other. Eventually, then you had a chief who was then eventually became a king, um, united all of the peoples, united all 5 of the tribes, I should say, and they then subjugated the other tribes that would not behave well. But the tribes that didn't behave were kind of swept under the rug in terms of history. You know, the victors get to write the history books. So the ones who rebelled were kind of written out of the history books. I gave Malberg their own flag because I thought they would eventually become an empire level. They did get fairly big there. Hold on, I did actually just straight up. I must be dyslexic or something. There we go. Whoa. I wonder what happened there. Interesting. I wonder if those were cities or something. Angzi is Yeah, nowhere really near empire level. Although they do have quite a bit of income, I would imagine. Oh yeah. Wow. It's amazing income. You gotta remember, these guys are supposed to be a tiny little micro, well, not a micronation, but a regional power over here. They're not really supposed to be huge like this. What'd you spend all your money on, bud? The Empire's dealing with all of its little rebellions, so they're not really capable of maintaining their money and their income. But it looks like it did fairly well, at least for the first 200 to 300 years. But by the year like 950, you had the Craolites that were just everywhere, and the islands over here. But I can't really tell because I don't know if that was really because of the fishing lanes. It seemed to be a bit more because of just the complete collapse, and like because Malberg ended up taking chunks out of the flippin' Kithicals. The complete collapse of the Kithical flippin' over here. I don't know what happened really. They just stopped having any backbone, and every foreign power that ever was just started taking chunks out of everything. The only thing that was left was I called them the Kithical East. I forget what their original name was, but yeah. Got 5,000 from somewhere. That's insane. It's really crazy because the Schweiz actually were beating them back and had a lot of money themselves. Yeah. Just keep again. Crush them once more. There you go. Burn down that village. Wow. Dished out a lot of money to him, huh? Black Crag, which is under Kithical. Oh, okay. I see what's going on. They're rebelling against their overlord. Yeah, that didn't look too smart. Yellowkeep is surprisingly still alive. I only say surprisingly because they have like 100 cities with 100 different rebellions. Alright, well, time to head out of that one. No, we're not ending quite yet. No, 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 no. You mistaken. You are rather mistaken. Oh, you can't just click on that. What is this? It's interesting. This is where I stole the, who is it from? Mr. Yuri. Mr. Yuri, I stole your idea to, do little dots and spread them around if they're just tribes. Hope you don't mind. Because it's a really good idea. It's a really good way to show that they're like nomadic and that they're not centralized and that this isn't really settled. Although I do have a few you know what? I do have a few gripes complaints about this one. I'm not gonna tear into you, don't worry. It's not a lot. It's just for one. The Finns, that wasn't everybody that was up around here. You also had the Karelians, although it could be argued that the Karelians were fairly similar to the Finns in culture, who was not very similar to the Finns in culture, like almost at all. Not even really in the same culture group, to be fairly honest. Is the Sami people. The Sami people, well, no, we'll just say Sami. Sami. The Sami and Suomi are all the way up here. These guys were of a completely different culture. They didn't interact too much with the Vikings. Um, they were very passive culture compared to like the Karelians and the Finns, to be fairly honest. The Sami peoples just kind of got subjugated by the Vikings, sadly to say. So you got to put them up there. Something else. The Estonians, they had people over here. Not a lot, but they had people over here. They had tribes over here. I think they were called. Is it one of these ones? No. Okay. The ASC, I think it was the AST tribe. They had one. They had a couple of them over here. So to have it blank and just label it Finns, a little sad. Just calling them Slavs. All right. All right. Okay. I guess. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and then labeling these guys Balts. I don't know about that. Labeling them Balts. I know the Baltic people really did come from like the same genetic code as the Slavs and the Finns in 430 BC, but this is also around the time that they oh, actually, hold on. No, this is a tad bit before that time. So I might be wrong on some of these things. I know the Sami people were still there, okay? No matter what I say, the Sami people always existed up here. They've been there since literally like 12,000 years ago. So, should put them up here. I don't know where because even archaeologists don't really know where. The Sami people have been there since Doggerland. We remember when like, well, nobody really remembers this, but when this used to actually be like land, when there's a land bridge here, the Sami people were up here. So, and that's around the time that they probably moved in or their ancestors moved in. Um, Things get kind of ambiguous between whether or not for certain who was there and where they were and who they exactly identified as and whether or not they were actually related to whatnot, all that nonsense. But that's odd. It's kind of funny. I bet you can find a couple of these on my maps. Let's see what's the land territory like. Interesting. 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 I'm pretty sure there's some farmland inside of Turkey, more than just here and there, but maybe it's just too small to map out correctly. Oh, that's not accurate. You going off of modern day map? Yes. Back then, this was all farmland, like all the way up through here. This should be farmland. There should be more farmland up in Turkey. If you're going off of modern day maps, then the farmland that's in here turned into desert, so there should be desert in between the hills. But no matter what, this should not be all hills, to be fairly honest. This should be plains. There's a tiny little like there's a little thing in there. I don't know exactly how big you would want it or the scale, but yeah, no. It is an amazing map. It is an amazing map though. I love it. I actually do. Really like. Oh my goodness. Oh, is this supposed to be for the yep, the Peloponnesian War. I see. Yeah, the Peloponnesian War. What? Dodecapolis? Is that what this was called? Dodecapolis? Because I know that these are Etruscans, or the Etruscan League up here, and that they, Etruscans subjugated the Romans and then there was a king that the Roman Republic had to overthrow. I don't know the exact timeline in between that, but I know that that's what happened. Let me see. Other than that, that's like where the limit of my actual knowledge goes. And the only reason why I bring any of it up is because I'm part Sami, and I noticed the missing of the Sami people. That's the main thing that I'm worried about. But it's a really amazing empire, though, or really amazing map. And I was reading Achaemenid Empire, and I looked at this and I realized why you probably made all of this hills, because hills doesn't make as much money as plains, and if you made all of this plains, Achaemenid Empire would be able to, like, wipe through literally probably almost everything here, and the only thing would actually give them a challenge would be the Scythians themselves. But, I don't know if that's a huge problem. Maybe it is. Maybe that's why you did it for them, for balance, but, if it was based upon historically speaking, there should be plains in between here, and this should be plains, not desert over here. Do 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 do. I do love all these little mountains everywhere. This is really good. I wish I could make stuff this good. I wish I could. It's amazing around here. Maybe make more of these mountains. Maybe. I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, definitely limit the fins a bit more because they're really powerful in this map. They don't really wash over everything else like a wave, but they do kind of end up subjugating everything everything into here. My bad, I have terrible yeah. But this is where I stole that idea from, because that's a really good idea. Really amazing. I have not played on any of these. 2024. That's interesting. That's interesting. Hmm. Anyways, back to Fekal we go. Then for Fekal, we do have to do something about Kreia. And I just came up with an idea for what to do with Kreia. This tip was always exaggerated. I made the tip exaggerated because I wanted to do it in the style that would be, what's it called? Like cartography from this age. Would not be very accurate. So that's kind of how I wanted to do the style. But honestly, it's causing balance problems. So, let's uncause the problems. And that should be able to fix a lot that's over here. Getting rid of all of this fishing land for Krail isn't going to do a ton, but it's going to do enough. Because all of this is going to be pretty much fished by Krail anyways. Because they're going to come in and probably own all of that. But the idea is to not let them have a direct path straight in, and that they have competition. That's the main idea, is that they just have competition. Jinpei still is having trouble just doing anything in the islands, which is unfortunate. It's fairly accurate because the islands were fairly hard to control. or have any influence. The only reason why Creste stayed stable is because Creste is the origin of the Craolite religion itself, not the people, just of the religion. And then Krusty, not Krusty, because the Craolite people, there was a Craolite person who was on the island of Krusty, and Krusty then spawned and spurred the Craolite religion that then spread to the Craolite people. Krusty has their own version of the religion that's basically a parody of Christianity, where they believe the person that they follow, that there's the great prophet, is actually more or less a messiah figure for the island of Krusty. Whereas Krael just believes that they're a prophet. Krusty believes that they're actually like a messiah. Do that. I don't really want to let Krael into here, because again, that would make them too powerful. We will do is... Hmm. Gonna pinch this area right here. Unfortunately, Kadusvi will suffer. But hopefully... This Kadushvi's little thing that they get. We'll have Find Tron being able to get in there. We'll have Uno Corner being able to get in there. And then we'll have Black Nia being able to get in there. There we go. Actually, honestly, hold on. I don't like how... There we go. As a matter of fact, I'll even move it south. So that stays disconnected. Krael did farm or fish in this area, but if I had that going into there, Krael would be way too powerful. They're just too powerful. I don't know why. They're just too powerful, eh? Alright, we'll get that one. Another one that we want is probably into here. I don't want Krael getting into all of that. Alright. Bam. One little tidbit of water saving literally the entire archipelago. Alright, let's see. Gauge that up to 3. Let's go ahead and put Kreshti into the system. Let's put Briscold into the system. And also, what I did notice is this little cavity that I opened up worked wonders. It really did prevent Krael from moving across the water straight into the Kithkel Empire. Unfortunately, this little pathway along here did not stop Krael in the slightest. So what I might actually do is just make sure that the Empire cuts off Krail right there. Might make the Empire a little bit too strong, but for some weird reason, the Empire is just a bit too strong anyways. Also, what I want to test out here real quick is, it seems to be that flippin', sorry. I just remembered something else. Where's Vegroy? There it is. Okay. Z. Put in some Lagi. Alfie. Gran. Let me see. This is gonna have no real impact. No, come here. Just have some of these. Alright. The ore heights. And lift up. And what else we're gonna do is we're gonna just straight up annihilate some of the Empire's land in and of itself. Hopefully getting rid of this land will help a bit of the actual balance. Because for some reason, empires don't count until they're at like 8,000 and 300. And I think that's because the empire starts at 8,000 and some odd. As a matter of fact, we're going to save it right here. I want to give these guys more access. I just realized, like, they only have quite literally one tile. There. These little fishing areas. We'll make some more fishing areas around here, but I just want to see... Shoot, what did I want to see? Got complete... Oh, yeah, that's right. Shoot. Okay. Hold on. Alright. I guess we're not really trying to look for anything too much. We're just trying to see what is the first thing to be considered an actual empire. Hopefully driving down, if we can, driving down the cost of actually being an empire. Maybe I'll fix, because if this works, then maybe I'll actually fix the Empire's land, because the Empire actually has a huge problem right now that's not very lore accurate. These guys can probably be broke. Nope, you didn't want to hang in. You didn't want to go all in. It's your problem, not mine. Wow, Health Bay is actually being really destructive. Oh, uh, it's unfortunate. Yeah, that's a problem. That right there is a problem. Krail is not supposed to have this much control. So you know what? I'm gonna have to edit that. Because this is good. This right here is good. Oh wow. Krusty got killed. The sea peoples are coming! The sea peoples are coming! Alright, let's see. 7,000. That's unfortunate. How did that happen? I was about to say, how did... What? Alright, so the Esne Emperor. Unfortunately, its small kingdom got murdered. You know what? I'm gonna lock that right there. We're gonna lock in some of these. Mm. Alright, what is that? 10,000? Dang, okay. That's not very helpful. You know what? Kinda tired of this. So 5,000. This is what we're gonna do. Who's this? Oh, that's a whole different. I thought that was the Empire for a minute. I was like, what? We're going to color in New Lily. Okay. Color in a bunch more. And color in a bunch over here. We're gonna see exactly how much before it becomes an empire. Not 7,000. Take from... Not 8,000. That's unfortunate. Can it just not become an empire by coloring? Hold on. 8,500. What? What? There we go. So you have to be 10,000? That doesn't sound right. Hold on. How much is here? About 1,000? You're at that. What if you just annex these guys? Seems like you guys got a lot of problems right now. What if you were to just... Why does it take so much to become a flippin' empire, dude? Why? Why is that even a problem right now? Why? Is this... Okay, no. These are two different things. It's gonna be like, what? I don't know what's going on over here, but you're struggling. You, for some reason, are doing really well. I mean, good for you. You're supposed to be doing this well every time, but you don't. But why? Why are you doing well all of a sudden right now? Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get there. Because it looks like 10,000, but that just feels wrong. That just feels wrong. Now it's higher than what it was before, because it used to be 8,200, so I don't know what's going on. So whatever I did not help. Alright. We're gonna edit the scenario. So that did not help whatsoever. Okay. fuggies. I'm trying to figure out what else to do. Oh, I remember now. Make them work for it. This is gonna be kind of petty, but tired of them flipping having so much control over here, man. Let's try that. Alright, maybe too much. Maybe that was too much. That's not my fault, though. It's not my fault. Alright, let's, while that's going, let's go ahead and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You know what? I just thought of a new idea. I can pretty much almost do the same thing. The only thing I have to do only thing I really have to do is just change the direction. Because it was a tad too short. Or a tad too long, I should say. I just need to shorten it a tad bit more. So we're going to grab that at 3. Shorten that down to 2. To 2, not to 3, to 2. There. They need to have a large amount of control, but not enough to where that they're owning more than 25% of the darn thing. Because it's just too much for them. They don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know how to handle it. No, it's still a tad bit too long. They need to be that much. I don't want them to go down too much. They need to be over. Because they gain a lot of money. You gain money from owning water. not a bunch, but you do gain money from it. I want them to have a presence here, because right now the only person they can attack is Jokufan. I want them to be able to also attack Barstan, but I don't want them to attack Blulia, because the problem is that they used to own pretty much almost everything here, and then Blulia would get under threat. They would immediately conquer Jokufam, and then they're right at Brightburg, Heathlife, conquering Barstan, conquering Blulia. Like, you see how it just keeps on going? They're jumping from island to island. I want them to stay right here. Preferably right here if I can. Well, no. Keep them between these two. Stay away from Blulia. Keep them right here. Maybe only right here. Alright. You consider an empire? No. You only have 6,000. Maybe they're just weaker than I remember them being. Because, yeah, he has 9,000. That's already at emperor rank. Wow. 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 What did you do? Lakji, what did you do? Shikaris. Sashote. Okay, these guys need to be recolored. They're not supposed to be that brown. You know what? It's fine. So, need to shorten that. Anything else that we can see here? Probably locking Jakufan. Or Jakumedo. Locking things that are supposed to become important. That's probably a good idea. So, like, Engji needs to be locked at 5. Jaku needs to be locked at 5. Tomon probably needs to be locked at 4 just because of what goes on around here. Yeah. Yeah, we'll try that. Locking things that need to be locked. Emperor is doing really well now. Now that I made it more complicated for these islands to become, or to be powerful on their own, it means the Emperor has become very strong and is able to consolidate power very quickly, which I like. Maybe a little bit too quickly, but that's more due to the game just having the vassals try to rebel way too quickly, which is fine. You know, that is what it is. It's fine. And Krael is being very passive this game. I don't know why. You also have a Jinpei dynasty that's Krael's not too far into the Jinpei dynasty. I like that. Well, before I get too attached, let's go lock. Fix the Strait of Krael. Yar 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 yar. Alright, Mashur. There we go. Save scenario. Cancel. Almost forgot. Where are your allies? Lock them at 4. You keep on being too much of a trouble. It's Blackhaven. Treaty Purple Heights. Where are some of your other allies, bro? Let me see. You're part of the circle. There you go. Lock some of them. I don't want to lock the Empire. Don't want to lock the Empire because the Empire might become too strong. I'm not gonna lock the Kadoosh fights. Goodness gracious, I apologize. Alright, let's see, what else? Angji? Gets to be locked. And the Esne Emperor can say what it's at. Anybody else? Not really, no. They're fine. Alright. Save the scenario. Save the map. Let's see where that goes. Yeah, I didn't think they were gonna really be able to do much anyways. Like, they got a lot of combat power, but, this is tundra, hills, and mountains. They're not gonna be able to do much. They got 6 combat power all of a sudden? Jeez Louise. That's starting to get beaten back. What? How did they win? Alright, I'm gonna have to lock those guys at 3. 3 or 4. They're not supposed to win. How did Krael not get anything more? Alright, that's it. We're gonna have to... fix more of Krael. Fix Krael. Lock flippin' Joku Meadows flippin' rival at 3. There's not a very specific... I want there to be randomness. Okay, I do want there to be randomness. But the fact that Fekal, or not Fekal, Krael is struggling all of a sudden after dominating every other map, it's getting a little frustrating. So there. Just shorten that by a few. And then, you probably lock you at 4 so that you stay very large. But yeah, anybody that's not part of this can be locked at 3 though. By locked apart by this, I mean if you're over in here, but you're not part of the fight, means you get locked out of the fight. Sorry, bud. Save the scenario. Save the map. On the map, on the map, on the map, on the map. Now, this should mean that Krail doesn't do amazing, but they are a little bit faster. A bit too fast. Yeah, they went too far down. Krail. That's about the same amount that I want them to have, but they're in the wrong place. You know what? That's fine. I won't complain too much. That's fine. So let's see. Yep. In my pocket. I don't know if that. God bless America. How did that happen? Alright. Well, I'm tired of those guys dying. Have to lock them. Gonna have to lock them too. It's a darn shame. It's a darn shame. Goodness gracious, I'm starting to get really frustrated. How did this become so? Well, yeah, that's right. This is no longer was no longer a random border. That's a cool look. Guessing Elfie Kiji actually got their independence? Yeah, it did. And Gran Kiji has decided to give the good old middle finger to those guys. I don't know what I'm gonna do with Krael, bro. I have to do something to weaken them. Because I just realized Krael is technically more powerful than, like, 3. They start off more powerful than pretty much 3 of the major powers. Like, all 3 of the major powers. Technically weaker than Krael. Who's this? Jinpei? Ah, there we go. The Jinpei doing their thing. There we go. Yeah, the Jinpei have been fine. The Jinpei problem has been solved for a long time. That's it. We're fixing it. Nope. We're fixing it. That's what I'll do. You know what? We'll do that. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Because I just realized there's a problem, right? If I do this, if I lock too many of these, it will kind of make sure that something always happens. Why would I do that? Like, like, part of this is being random and seeing who can come out on top. But you know what? We're gonna go ahead and save this scenario. We'll just call it historical. There you go. And something else I want to do is what? All right. Okay. So it means that some of them actually do get filled in, the random ones. You got one on top. They'll have a flag that's very similar to... You know what? I like that. I'm gonna keep those, almost pretty much keep those rears. Because that's one I made. This is what the game made. Alright, you know what? I don't like it as much. Why? Why that color for this? Why is it so similar to my boy Swagish? Why? Why would you do this? Also, fix Swagish. You know what? I don't want to fix Swagish. I'm not going to save that because it's fine. So you see how they have to spend a lot of money and time subjugating all of that land? Which means they're not going to be as concerned with fighting the actual emperor. And it also means the emperor gets more time to do whatever the emperor wants. Also more time to collect money. So let's see. Now because that is locked over here, it means that these guys don't want to go to war, because usually These guys go to war like as soon as they can. But now they don't want to go to war, which is unfortunate. How much money can you have? I don't know why YouTube did that. Alright, so now if you attack these guys here. Why? How? What? No. Why is Barhoot? Okay. So let's say, why is Barhoot not locked? Jokumedo. You're nowhere near bankruptcy. Attack them. There you go. Now immediately it becomes the Wolf Keep Coalition. You have a good amount of this. Alright. It's nice. What the hell, Krail? Mind you, yeah, most of this is all desert wasteland. So the Tamal Kingdom actually holds the valuable land, whereas everybody else is just trying to get there. Low Hoffen, Oil Height. I don't know what happened here. Didn't you annex them earlier? No? That must have been a different one. What? Did you just backstab them? Why would you do that? That was not very smart, man. Well, that was interesting. That's good. Yeah, I don't think you guys are rebelling anytime soon. Well, hello there, Jokumedo. Kind of sad that you don't have any allies anymore, but welcome. Welcome back. They're fighting all of their neighbors. Most of them, not all of them. And one of them's gonna suffer from that. Yeah, I was about to say. It's not part of the, yep, it's all the same alliance. Who's part of that? Oh, you're trying to ally with somebody across the flippin' globe. I don't think that's very smart for you, bud. And Wolfpack is gone. No. Oh, I see what happened. Why would you give money to them? What? They've pacified a few cities, but not many of them. Most of them are very, very uncomfortable with the fact that there's a foreign dynasty on the throne. Creole has been, well, they've been cuffed and resided to their little corner. Angzi is doing well. Probably not amazing, but they're doing well. Tomal is doing their thing. Conquering all of the major cities along here. I never named Plania. A Plane. Ng. Minor top. Which is originally part of Jokumedo's coalition there. It's rather unfortunate, but it does seem, what's going on here? Oh, oh, the Empire flippin' took out, no, Newly, no! I don't know if we'll ever see a Lily Empire ever again. Lily Empire is from like the first stream. If you don't know who the Lily Empire is or what the Lily Empire is, you should definitely check out the first live of this. But yeah, the Lily Empire was basically Newly, the little nation that was down here. I never named Newly either. That's my bad. But yeah, this little city right here that conquered the Empire. The Empire is all of a sudden struggling once more. Joku Meadow is doing well, but everyone else is not. They burned down Newly City. I'm angry. A few of these cities are actually named, and a few of them should be named. It's an old city-state of Big E's. That's Vegroy. Actually, no, I think I did this wrong. Big E's is supposed to be right here, and that's supposed to be Vegroy. It's okay. It's okay. Oh, there goes Cannon Bornu. There's Red Castle. Looks like the Emperor had a couple uprisings. I don't know. We'll see if they stick around. Oh, if there wasn't Major Elia here, I think I would actually make minor top. Wow. Well, I think I'll call it here. That's amazing. Yeah, there we go. Empire of the Lily. If you apply that, that'd be pretty cool. But that's not the actual flag. That's also not the flag of Lily, because Lily's flag is this one. It's almost the same thing, but not quite. You also have South Korea's flag. This is supposed to be the Kadushvi flag, but you know, it's fine, it works. Well, Malberg did it once more. Never mind, they just got conquered. They're unironically about to get conquered. Well, I'm gonna end the stream. I hope you all have a nice day. Um, I see. If you press the F key, it will center in on the capital. So if I click that, and then I zoom in, there we go. That's interesting. Alright, well, I hope you all have a nice day, and I hope to see you all. Try to have a nice day, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Next time, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Anyways, goodbye.